All right, welcome to the GBNO Show, episode number 15, with yours truly, Dr. Rob, and my awesome dietitian wife, Shannon. Say hi, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
As always, I'm your outside-in guy, and Shannon is your...
Inside out.
Yep, so combined 50 years, over 50 years of clinical experience dealing with patients. So, broad range of knowledge. This noodle up here is stuffed with useless information.
Not useless.
Some useful, a lot of useless. But today we are covering a super important topic that is probably one of the, and ironically the word I'm getting ready to use, deep-seated issues in our health society right now. Because it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous.
It's super controversial.
It's controversial, but it shouldn't be because it's a pretty black and white issue to a certain degree. But why don't you tell everybody what we're covering today?
Seed oils. The reason why I say it's controversial is because you've got some pretty big hitters that are, they are in one camp, and then you've got another camp. You've got two different camps of advice, which is why it's so confusing. The American Heart Association is the big one.
That's the what camp?
That is the camp that says seed oils are healthy.
That was also the camp that basically talks about things that we know are pretty much debunked right now. Yeah. So we're not going to follow that camp, but what's the other camp?
The other camp is probably more of a newer research, more integrative, functional, like let's really get down to, again, way before, like let's go way, way back and let's look at the processing. It's always about the processing. Like we talk about ultra-processed foods. What does that mean? Well, it's always about the procedure that they went through to create what it is we're consuming, right, which is the problem.
Right.
It's rarely the food itself that's the problem unless it's sugar and other things. I mean, think about what they do to sugar. They turn it into high fructose corn syrup or whatever. So anyways, what we're going to do today is we're going to present what they are, and then we're going to really dig into what the controversy is and dispel some myths and get into what the truths are about how these seed oils are processed. But then let's focus a fair amount on what's our solution here.
Okay.
I left my glasses on today because I'm going to have to refer a lot to what I've written to ensure that I get this right.
Go for it.
The average American gets 80% of their fat calories from 8 seed oils.
Okay. And those 8 are?
Canola, corn, cottonseed, soy, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, and rice bran.
Okay.
So it's very, very hard to find a label of food that does not have one of those oils in it.
Now, why are those oils in so much?
Well, they're polyunsaturated oils. Not 100% poly, like a lot of people have heard that canola is a monounsaturated fat. It all has to do with going from monounsaturated to polyunsaturated to saturated, meaning mono is the least saturated fat. Saturated is solid at room temperature. It's the most saturated of the bonds are saturated. It is like literally firm. There's no room for oxidation.
So when you cut off a piece of fat off your steak, that's
saturated.
That's a saturated fat.
Yeah.
Right? When you squeeze oil out of an olive, that is monounsaturated.
That's right. Well,
okay?
We're going to get there.
Okay, I'm just trying to give people an idea when you squeeze oil out of an avocado.
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with these things in their regular straight. Like there's nothing wrong with a sunflower seed. There's not, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
all of these seeds are great for us.
Yeah.
It's the processing.
100%.
Again, that's the issue. So we're going to get into what that means.
Yeah, that's
today.
what I'm just trying to help people understand that, because people are going to go, well, you just listed 8 things, so I should never eat them. And it's like, well, no, you should not never eat them. You should probably not eat them in certain forms.
Well, so not all seeds are bad, right? It depends on the processing and the fatty acid composition. So the health impact of the seed oils, good or bad, it matters on the fatty acid profile and the oxidative part of how it was processed, et cetera.
Yeah.
So these in themselves, if we're eating the pulp of the plant, then we're fine. It's just when they're trying to extract the oil from these is where we get into trouble.
Right.
These oils should never be heated. And the very thing that happens when they are extracted from these seeds is they are heated. And therein lies the problem.
Right.
And a lot of people have thought that it's just that processing that is the issue, but it's actually the toxins that are created in that process that become more of the issue. And some of those toxins can be removed, but not all. So the point of this today is just to present the data and then let everybody know that there are other options. So if there is a lot of data on these seed oils being responsible for a large majority of disease because of the amount that we are consuming them. So when you go to, and I honestly, since I've done a deep dive into this and done a lot of research, have really spent a lot of time trying to find products that don't have these in them. And it's really hard. I mean, unless you're eating whole foods, it is super hard to find a product that does not have them in. And that is the problem. It's the sheer number of consumption, like how much we are getting of this is the problem because that compounds.
Even with the organic stuff that we buy, the other night when you were going through the cupboards and you were like, oh my gosh, look at this. This has, as one of its last couple ingredients, whatever sunflower lecithin or whatever type of grapeseed oil or whatever. Again, small amounts, but still in there. So they're in there because why? From a food constitution wise, like why are they putting them in?
Okay, so the food industry, most of these oils will be used for cooking, and that in itself generates the toxicity because you shouldn't heat them anyway, right? So it's the deodorizing, it's the oxidation in the fried foods, it's the refining, it's the process that they are using in these factories to extract the oil. That is the problem.
Right. But also we know if you go to get some fried chicken from some of, our kids love this one fried chicken place that all kids love, and it's always got a line. I don't want to name it, but they use seed oils. So who knows where their seed oils are from, but they're heating them up to fry the chicken. They're heating them up to fry the fries. So now you're getting your chicken, whether it's organic or not, or your potatoes organic or not, your product that you're getting ready to put in your body has been heated up. So it's releasing toxins and it's going to be pro-inflammatory in your body. And Eric is just over there dropping his head going, no, not that place.
It's very, I mean, honestly, it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I've decided for us that this is going to be like, this is what we're super focusing on in the new year is really honing in on the products that do it right and what we can do. So we will get to some solutions here.
Yeah.
I want to mention where I got a lot of this information. Dr. Kate Shanahan is who is leading really a lot of this research on these seed oils. She has over 500 scientific citations to prove all of this.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty significant to mention.
Yeah, 500, yeah.
And the name of her newest book is called Dark Calories, and it's all spelled out in there. So we're just going to kind of give a high-level presentation, but anyone interested in all 500 of those are cited in her book. We're not going to do it on this podcast. Okay. But let's get into, now that we've presented which of the 8, which I think Dr. Kate Shanahan refers to as the hateful 8.
Yeah. I think that was a Quentin Tarantino movie.
What's the controversy? Well, so linoleic acid, which is the polyunsaturated fatty acid found in high concentration in 7 of those 8 oils, is not the problem. The problem is the oxidation that occurs during manufacturing and continues to occur after they leave the factory. So in the bottle, after you open it, in your body, after you eat it, then you heat it again when you're cooking, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's not the linoleic acid that is a huge part of these polyunsaturated. That's not what we're contesting. As a dietitian, I understand that linoleic acid is good. It's the processing.
I remember you telling me years ago, grass-fed steak that is grass-finished, so cows just eating, grazing grass, have higher amounts of conjugated linoleic acids, which are basically monounsaturated acids, so it's healthier for you.
That's right.
So in its natural form, it's actually okay for you.
On the cows that are grazing on grass that is not sprayed with glyphosate, which is like, it's all related.
Exactly.
Okay. So the other controversy is hexane, and it's a known carcinogen used in the processing of these vegetable oils. Even though it's presented in trace amounts, I want to make sure I read this. The processing of it, even in non-organically labeled or organically labeled, even the trace amounts of it should be avoided. Like, it's a known carcinogen.
Yeah, so carcinogen meaning it causes cancer. I want to rewind for 1 second because you've used the word oxidation a couple times. I know we've described this prior, but for people who haven't listened to us before and are wondering, well, what's this oxidation thing? Take a bite of an apple, leave it on your counter for X amount of minutes. It will start to brown where the inside of the apple is showing. That's oxygen getting to the cells of the apple and oxidizing that. When that happens inside of our bodies, it causes a whole plethora of issues that can lead to inflammation, can lead to cancer, disease, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
you don't want your cells oxidized.
You don't want your cells oxidized, and you want to put products in your body that have been oxidized.
So the controversy with hexane, to get back to that, is that seems to be what everybody's so focused on. But even though it is, so then there's going to be the camp that says, well, if hexane's not used, blah blah blah, it's actually healthy. No, that's not true. That's the hexane is not the problem. It's the toxicity that's created in refining of all of these oils that are the problem. So I want to get into that a little bit more because there's a whole lot of politics behind this.
Well, yeah, this is big business.
Yeah, big business.
Go into the back of any restaurant, or you know how some restaurants you kind of go back to the restroom and they have some storage shelves that are in the back hall that they just leave out there. You see
that huge liquid
tubs of this kind of clearish, yellowish oil.
Yeah, but then how often is that restaurant cleaning that oil?
You mean the oil in the fryer?
Yes.
Well, I think it should be daily from what I understand, but I know it's not.
Daily.
So it's oxidized and then settles, and then oxidized again as it's heated up, then settles again. So
some of them do. I have heard some of this like clarified oil where they try to get the chunks out of it, and they think that's like what they need to do to make it healthier. But
so they're putting a chemical into another chemical mixture to make it less chemically.
It's basically right. Again, it's the process of it that is just such the problem. Okay, so expeller-pressed. We were always led to believe that was, if it was expeller-pressed, that was better.
What does that mean?
Well, it's the heat that they use in the processing. So, in other words, they think because it's not, heat wasn't used, and it's expeller-pressed, which is the process of expressing that's better. And in actuality, it's not.
Gotcha.
So, again, people are looking for those words, expeller-pressed, and thinking that they're making a better choice, which indeed is not a better choice. So expeller-pressed led to believe this was healthier than those that are processed using chemical solvents such as hexane, but unfortunately they are still subjected to oxidation.
Okay, so why does this matter to people? This matters to people because everywhere you go, doesn't matter what restaurant, unless they say we're using daily changed out olive oil, organic olive oil, organic avocado oil. Even olive oil wouldn't be good because it's got a low smoke point, right? But
we're going to talk about smoke point next because there's some myths on that as well.
But so why is this important to people? Everywhere you go and almost everything people are putting in their bodies nowadays have this stuff.
I actually downloaded an app that identifies restaurants that are using healthy seed oils.
Oh, cool.
And
what's the app called?
I knew you were going to ask
It's like
that.
Seed Finder or something like that. I feel like I've heard about it before.
I'll put it in the show notes because
Okay.
I can't remember. But anyway, it just identifies, the restaurants that are using, let's say, olive oil. Well, most of the time that means that they're not using that at high heats, because the interesting thing about smoke point was really meant to be pertinent to lazy cooks. In other words, if you have olive oil and you stand there and you stir it and never let it smoke,
Yeah.
it never reaches its smoke point. But
Okay.
because we like to walk away and let it do what it needs to do, or chefs like, you know what I mean? It basically, then you try to use oils that have a higher smoke point so that you don't have to tend to
Right.
the cooking process. But you can prevent a smoke point just by stirring.
But again, a smoke point is bad because you're taking an oil from its natural form, you're heating it and basically oxidizing it
Exactly.
and creating more pro-inflammatory constituents, which are going to
Absolutely.
goof up your health.
Okay, so
Awesome.
then we get to, so we've talked about linoleic acid and the controversy there. And then we talked about hexane and the controversy there, expeller-pressed and why that is. Now let's get to high-oleic, because now you will see high-oleic sunflower oil or whatever. Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. While it is better because that it turns that polyunsaturated into more of a monounsaturated fat, that part of it is great, because then when it comes to oxidation, there's less bonds that can be oxidized, if you will. Do you want to explain this a little bit further?
Well, if you have a polyunsaturated, you basically have more chemical bonds. And if you have a monounsaturated, you have one. And we were always taught in school, your monounsaturates, which are your olive oil and your avocado oil, they're just going to be better for you because they're less inflammatory. When you have your polyunsaturates, they tend to be more pro-inflammatory. They tend to be more omega-6 oils, which we get tons of omega-6 in our diet right now. Everything we're talking about with basically the oils, and then with
Abundance.
abundance, breads and all that. So we really want to reduce the omega-6. That's why taking fish oils, which are really good for you because they're high in omega-3s, it blunts that inflammatory response of the omega-6 polyunsaturates.
And further to that, because then there will be other dietitians and people, other medical doctors, et cetera, that will say, but linoleic acid, that there's nothing wrong with a polyunsaturated fat. That's better than a saturated fat.
But that's been disproven now.
Exactly. That in itself is controversial, because you have to, it matters the quality of that. If that lard came from a cow that was able to roam and actually do what the cow was supposed to do, which is on hills and get exercise and eat on grasses that were not sprayed with a bunch of chemicals, then there's nothing wrong with what they yield.
Yeah.
It's all about how we have changed everything to be processed so that it can stay on the shelf longer and do this and do that. And that's where the problem lies, excuse me. So it's the refining, the bleaching, the deodorizing of these oils. That is still happening in these high-oleic oils. However, since most of those are mono, it's better, but you're still at risk there.
Right.
So the whole point to this is, let's just eliminate these hateful eight. Like, why, if we know this information, are we allowing so much food to be manufactured with it when we know it's damaging health?
Well, because you're going into a whole new subject matter, which the whole Make America Healthy Again movement.
May I get even more controversial here?
Sure.
On Dr. Shanahan's website, you can Google it, what the American Heart Association is hiding. And she delves into that in her book. And it's,
Well, Callie and Casey Means, if you want to follow people who are pretty into this, Casey Means is a neurosurgeon. Is it Casey Means? I think that's her name.
Yeah.
She's a neurosurgeon who quit at the top of her residency when she was about to
Not
start.
neuro. She was ENT.
ENT and neuro. I'm almost positive neuro as well. She's a genius. But anyways, she was looking at cases going, well, why are we not looking at nutrition? And she didn't like the medical model, so she actually got out. Now her brother Casey is a journalist, and they've been doing some pretty cool research on just the food industry and the food lobby and how big money and big industry has been making us sick forever. So that goes into what you're saying with the American Heart Association and all of that. It's money driven, not health driven. If it was health driven, we wouldn't be in health crises right now. We spend more money than any nation in the world on healthcare. Our life expectancy is gone down over the last 10 to 15 years. So you wonder what is at play, basically.
Yeah.
When you go into a grocery store and you have to go on a search for what is healthy.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. Walk into a big old grocery store. I don't care what chain it is. And 99% of what's in there has got this crap in it. And it's got high amounts of sugar in it. And it's harder to find the healthy stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost hidden.
I really do feel like we're on the cusp of slowly but surely this is unraveling.
But it takes a lot of time to turn a ship around. It's not going to be in a year.
Dr. Shanahan would definitely present that she feels like this is much more of the issue than high fructose corn syrup and some of the others.
I mean, that's arguable because you could delineate both of those to create their own situations. Like, okay, you high fructose corn syrup causes a whole bunch of inflammation, but maybe the inflammation doesn't get as bad if you're not eating all the seed oils. And yeah, I mean, you could argue it. I think the bottom line is this: we got to change it all.
All right, so let's talk and spend the rest of the time on solutions.
I like how you just cut me off there. It's like you knew I was getting ready to go down a rabbit hole there, didn't you? Yeah. See how she just adeptly just got wedged right in there and stopped me. I got to mention one thing. The interesting thing about canola oil, back when I was an undergrad in the late 1800s, we had a great nutrition prof named Dr. Kelton. I don't know if he's still alive. I hope he is, but shout out to him. He was amazing because he was talking in 1992. Obviously, it wasn't the late 1800s. 1992, when I took my first nutrition course in undergrad at York University up in Canada, he was talking about omega-3s way back then in fish oil supplementation. This guy was way ahead of the curve. But he was talking about polyunsaturates and canola oil and olive oil and all that back then, and talking about how we're getting too much omega-6 polyunsaturates in our diet. Well, the interesting thing is canola oil. Do you know what the term canola comes from?
I don't.
Canada oil low acid.
I knew it was the Canadians.
Damn Canadians. Gosh. Blame Canada. Blame Canada.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, but hold on. I got to make this point. They basically were using the rapeseed plant for rapeseed oil. It's been used for a long time for many different things, but it wasn't palatable. It was kind of almost like pungent tasting.
Can we spell the word because it doesn't start with a G? It's not grapeseed.
No, rapeseed. Yeah, like
okay.
R-A, yes. Yeah. So they basically changed the constituents. There was two things. I can't remember the name of them. Glucose, something, and then uricoside or something. It doesn't matter. I know, stay on point. But that's what I'm saying. I'm just getting to the point that canola is not a naturally occurring substance. So really in no form is it healthy. Even if it's organic, they're still having to manufacture it.
There is no seed it's coming from. There is no fruit. There is no anything that it's coming from.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's coming from the rapeseed, but you can't just squeeze a rapeseed like you can squeeze an olive and put it in a bottle and use it.
That's what I mean. From the like the actual seed.
They've got to manufacture it.
Are you done?
Well, you're making me be done, clearly.
Okay. So we're going to go on to how our listeners can focus on consuming unrefined. That's key. Mm-hmm. You want to look for unrefined because anytime it's refined, I don't care what type of oil it is, there's going to be issues. Mm-hmm. Low in polyunsaturated fats,
Would you say
high
low?
in omega-3.
Okay. I thought you said low end, but you're saying low
in polyunsaturated fat. So those 8 that so let's go back.
It's your oaky accent.
The 8 is canola, corn, cottonseed, soy, sunflower, safflower, grape with a G, seed, and rice bran. Now, these are the ones we want to focus on. Avocado oil, which, by the way, does have a very high smoke point, so it can be a very lazy cook's way of cooking.
Yep.
Things that need to get hot. Butter, coconut oil, duck fat, ghee, lard, olive oil, peanut oil, which that's going to surprise a lot of people. Did you know that Five Guys fries their fries in 100% peanut oil?
I knew. I love Five Guys.
Yeah. Flax oil.
Eric's over the guard. Yes.
So,
I can still go there.
Like, this is good, right? So that if you want fries, then I would give the people that are doing it a little better than the others the business. Then there's flaxseed, sesame oil, flaxseed oil, or flax oil, walnut oil, almond oil, macadamia nut oil.
God, I've never seen those.
But I think you're going to start seeing them more because as this starts to surface, who do you think is going to come out of the woodwork to say, buy me?
Yeah.
Right? Anything that says cold pressed and unrefined, it must say unrefined. That I can't stress that enough. If it says cold pressed, but it's refined, still not good. If it says organic and still refined, if it does not say unrefined, then walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. In cooking, things like almond oil, avocado oil, butter, coconut, duck fat, ghee, lard, all of those are great for cooking. Okay? But you don't want to cook flax, walnut, or fish oils. Okay? So let's go again. Cooking, almond oil.
Go slow because people might want to write this down.
Okay. Almond oil, avocado oil, butter, coconut, duck fat, ghee, which is GHEE, lard, macadamia nut, peanut, tallow, sesame, olive oil. But you got to be sure to stir them all because those are all lower smoke point other than the avocado oil, right? But you don't want to cook with flax, walnut, or fish oils.
But in general, those 3 are going to be okay if you want to put them on a salad.
Exactly.
Although fish oil on a salad is probably
unrefined,
pretty gross.
Cold pressed is your best option. Okay. Artisan oils that are extracted using the highest quality mechanical cold pressed, which that's what that means, that's what cold pressed is. They're tasty, wholesome, and that's healthier. They don't require further steps like the deodorizing and all the other stuff.
Right.
So you want unaltered, you want unrefined. That's what you're going for.
Yep.
So in short, unfortunately, 80% of these fats that we are consuming as a nation come from these sad, refined, processed oils.
Yep.
It's really hard to find. I mean, even try to find a health product that doesn't have sunflower lecithin in it, which is, again, processed.
Yeah.
So, here I am going back to, everyone thinks that I'm crazy, but that the whole foods, like just these one ingredient foods, again, here we are where it's one more thing that has been processed that's creating health issues.
Yeah.
If we just go back to the basics of eating these whole foods that are one ingredient and make our, food that way, then we avoid all of this. I feel like so much of the time we are focused on removal, take this away. You can't have this. You can't have this. I'd like to talk more about how easy it is to do this if you just eat whole foods.
So I've never talked about this on this platform before, but for people who don't know, my background is Southern European. That's why I look a little bit olive-y. My parents and my grandparents were born in
olive tones, not the actual olive.
I don't know correct terminology.
Okay, just clarify.
I know red, black, white, brown, pink. That's about it. Blue. my parents and my grandparents were born in Macedonia and then emigrated to Canada where I was born. But all four of my grandparents lived not just into their late 80s and 90s, but into their high 90s. Okay. All my mom's aunts lived high 90s, hundreds. Some of them even smoked. But what they did was they consumed food that even in Canada, when they were in Canada for 50 years, 60 years, they consumed food that they did in the old country, which was meats. They ate every sort of meat. They ate chicken, they ate steak, they ate goat, they ate pig, you know what I mean? And they always had vegetables, and they had breads that they made, and there was always a thing of olive oil and vinegar on the table. That was, and salt and pepper. That was the salad dressing. So basically my grandmother would toss a salad, put it, and we'd go over there for dinner. She'd put it on the table, and she would pour olive oil on it, and then she'd pour a little white vinegar, a little salt, and then mix it up.
Can I stop you here? Because that's great, because at home they were putting olive oil in there. But I want to really caution people, if they think they're going to start making better choices at a restaurant, when they ask for the oil and vinegar, most of the time that oil is one of the 8 that I just mentioned.
Yeah. Now, I'm talking not about trusting a restaurant. I'm just saying going back to how we were supposed to eat. Here's another caveat. They never went to the doctor. Until they were very old, they very rarely went to the doctor. They weren't sick with a lot of stuff.
They weren't on a lot of medication.
They weren't on a lot of medications. They didn't have inflammatory diseases. Now, I'm not saying at a restaurant, but I'm saying when you're cooking at home, keep
they
it
didn't
simple.
go out to eat.
And they didn't. No, they were very simple people. They didn't go out to eat much because they didn't have a lot of money. But again, we'd go over there. My grandmother would actually make this fried chicken that my sister and I loved, but she would fry it in, I don't even know what oil she used.
I hope it wasn't Crisco.
But I guarantee it wasn't Crisco because that's just not, I mean, it was
probably lard.
I'm assuming it was,
Yeah,
but like
tallow of some sort.
Probably. It was just what they did in the old country. And then, we talk about collagen here, right? Where she would get a chicken, we would eat it, and then I'd go back a week later, and there'd be a pot of soup sitting, and she'd boil the bones and the cartilage, and then we'd eat soup. And I mean, that's just...
The thing is the way we have evolved. It's the rat race. We're constantly, nobody has time to spend that much time in the kitchen anymore.
But does it, though? Because we're busy as... we both have jobs, and then we have a second job with this podcast and filming and everything else and being parents. But we go home, you throw chicken in the air fryer or some meat in the air fryer. We toss up a salad really quick, and it's not like we're in the kitchen for hours slaving away.
Believe me, I try to spend as little time in the kitchen as possible.
You hate it.
But we do spend a fair amount of money on good quality food. We don't eat out a lot. We literally, but... For me, I need it to be quick, but I need it to be healthy. And so we, do spend, if there is a brand out there that makes my life easier in the kitchen, that's what I'm going for in the evening. Yeah.
And we always say, spend money on the food now so you don't have to spend money on your sick care later, because you will get sick if you keep doing this.
And it should be one of your higher price points. Your food, your good quality food. Let me tell you, there are great organic farmers doing it right that don't spray crops, etc. Find out who is doing it right, who maybe can't even afford to pay the government to come and deem them organic, but they are not spraying and they're doing it right, and they're trying. That's their livelihood. Support those people. There's always farmers market. Ask questions. Do you guys spray? How are these processed?
Okay. So takeaways.
So in summary, our polyunsaturated fats that are consumed in whole foods like sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, that's great. Those polyunsaturated fats are wonderful.
Plus you're getting fiber from them.
Yeah. It's literally the processing that's the problem, the toxins that are created in that processing. So, yes, go eat your heart out and PUFAs, as they call them, polyunsaturated fatty acids in seeds, nuts, fish. Do it all, right? It's when you're buying the refined oils that are expressed from, that original, that's the problem.
Yep.
Let's look on my next page here. Nature does not make bad fats. This is a quote right out of her book. Nature does not make bad fats. Factories do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important.
Super important.
Yeah. What about high-oleic sunflower oil? Is it better, but it's better, but still not good? So again, we discussed that word high-oleic.
Yeah.
We talked about the controversy in those linoleic acids, the expeller-pressed, all of that stuff. That's really it. So what we talked about, those oils that we talked about that are good, as long as you're not, that you're watching the ones that are the lower smoke point. You can Google, what are the highest smoke point oils, lowest smoke point oils, but the ones that I listed for cooking and not for cooking, the ones that we listed as unrefined, focus on those. Eat whole foods and add whatever good fat you want to it. Like we, right next to the oven at home, have the cold pressed unrefined olive, and we've got an avocado oil, the same, and that is predominantly what we use to cook with.
Yep.
You got one that has a high smoke point, you have one that's a low smoke point. Knock yourself out.
Yep.
I can't have butter because of my allergies, and it's very difficult to find an option for butter that is not one of these refined oil mixtures.
Yeah.
So these plant-based margarines and butters and all of this, that they are part of the problem as well.
Yeah, just all seed oil. So you're basically just eating inflammation.
Yeah. So the takeaway is that, again, seed oils are not bad. It's what we do to them in the factory that makes them bad. Mm-hmm. Be educated about the ones to consume, the ones to stay away from, and do your best. Any little bit that everybody is doing to lower the number of these oils in their, consumption. You have to assume that when you are eating out, that you are getting these. Yeah. It is what the majority. When I looked in our area, there were only 3 places that were using good oils to cook out of all of the restaurants in Sarasota.
Are you serious?
So there is an app. Just Google apps that, identify restaurants that are doing it. The interesting thing is Five Guys does show up because of the peanut oil.
That's wild.
They don't fry anything else in that oil.
Yeah.
If you think about that. They don't have chicken nuggets, and they don't have, it's literally just potatoes being fried in peanut oil. Mm-hmm. Now, I have no idea how often they clean it. I don't know their processes there, but peanut oil is a largely highly monounsaturated fat as long as they're buying it the right way and doing it the right way. If anything, that your takeaway is from this particular podcast is it is something that you need to be aware of on how much you're consuming, because it is causing health issues. Yeah. It's one, some people think, I stay away from sugar, I stay away from gluten, I stay away from this, seed oils should be top of the list. Yeah. And that it's not an issue if it's, you need to try to make it less often than often, and just make some changes where you can. And that could be a good goal for 2025.
Agreed.
All right.
Good one. In depth, intense. Love it. And I even got to tell a couple stories.
Wow.
Wasn't that fun?
That's great, Dr. Rob.
All right. Dr. Rob signing off. Again, I'm here to help you get better, not older, from the outside in.
And I'm the inside out.
So until next time, get better, not older.